Hello, everyone. My name is Chang. I'm a UX manager here at Roku. I've been with the company for 8 years, working closely with our teams to enhance user experiences across our products. It's been an exciting journey, and I am thrilled to be here with Jeff today to share some insights on how UX plays a crucial role in our development process. We'll be walking you through 3 key areas. I'll explain the foundational elements that define our brand and how they influence our design decisions. Then I'll pass it to Jeff to dive into the visual framework that guides our design language and ensures consistency across our products. He'll also share some valuable insights from our user research team, helping everyone here to better understand users' behaviors. And we should have more than 10 minutes toward the end for Q&As. Please scan the QR code and submit yours. So for brand pillars, our brand pillars are simplicity and delight. We deliver intuitive invention and unexpected smiles. Our passion to deliver experiences that look simple and are simple to use fuels our invention. Never frivolous or flashy, we distill things down to the most essential, easy-to-understand products with the needs of audiences at the heart of our innovation. We simplify technology to make TV watching effortless. In order to achieve simplicity, our UX must be easy. Not only easy to use, but also easy to discover how to use. Both physical and cognitive effort should be minimized so as to help users achieve their goals, which is typically watching something great. The experience also must be snappy and reliable, free of crashes and errors. When it comes to the look, it must be clear to the user where they are and what they can do. Text should be minimal with sufficient size and contrast. The screen layout and visual design support users in making decisions rather than distracting them. And in order to deliver delight or unexpected smiles, please find opportunities for tasks that are unexpectedly simple, features that are unexpectedly helpful, and images or animations that can lead to an unexpected smile. While these are Roku's brand pillars, we believe the philosophies can contribute to better experiences in your products as well. With that, I'm passing it to Jeff, our design system guru and beyond.
Thank you, Chang, and hello, everyone. I'm a product designer at Roku, and I'd like to begin by sharing how our visual framework embodies our principles of simplicity and delight. I'll highlight 3 key ways that we bring this to life, which might relate to your own apps: layout and spacing considerations, typography, and high contrast. First of all, our spatial system. We feel that a spatial system is more than the guidelines for arranging a screen. It's a foundation of our user experience. A well-crafted spatial system provides simplicity by ensuring consistent alignment, proportions, and spacing across all touchpoints. This consistency makes interfaces feel familiar and easy to navigate, thereby allowing users to focus on content rather than deciphering the layout. Also, by incorporating balanced, aesthetically pleasing arrangements, we try to create experiences that are not only functional, but visually satisfying. To achieve this, we use a 3-pixel grid system. This means that all widths, heights, margins, and padding are divisible by 3. The reason is because the dimensions of HD, FHD, and UHD are all divisible by 3. So by using a spacing system based on multiples of 3, our designs can upscale or downscale without any fractional values. For larger UI elements, we also use multiples of 12 or even 60 pixels, which again are still divisible by 3. Lastly, the light purple border on the right accounts for the overscan margins on the TV screen. Although we know that overscan is rare, we try to design all important elements inside of that margin to ensure visibility. Another way we're planning to delight our customers is with a new custom Roku font, which will be available in the SDK starting in Q4 of this year. This typeface subtly reflects elements of the Roku logo while maintaining a contemporary and friendly tone. While you can continue using your own preferred typefaces, of course, the new Roku font will replace the existing Gotham fonts in the SDK. A third way we enhance simplicity in our UI is by ensuring sufficient contrast. Our goal is to make content clear and easy to read for all users, regardless of their visual abilities. We feel that simplicity is achieved when users can engage with content without straining their eyes or struggling with unclear elements. So what you're seeing on the left is an example of our minimum recommended text contrast ratio, meaning that the text and its background should have a minimum contrast ratio of 4.5 to 1. On the right is an example of our minimum recommended contrast ratio for graphics. Icons, buttons, and other visuals should have at least a 3-to-1 contrast ratio with their backgrounds. To bring everything together, here's an example screen from the native Roku UI. It showcases our standard spacing system, the new upcoming typeface, and strong contrast for enhanced legibility. As Changchang noted, we try to make our user interfaces literally look simple. And while we can't cover every aspect of our design system in 20 minutes today, we hope that this brief overview offers some insight into our approach. A visual framework can help you maintain organization, consistency, and legibility across screens. Now, here are a few insights from the Roku user research team, which we thought might be of interest to you. We felt it might be more valuable to share insights from our own design research rather than trends or patterns that you can find directly in competitor apps or online industry reports. Our user researchers explore the pain points, goals, and behaviors of customers who interact with our products. That research not only guides our design of simple interfaces, but also paves the way for delight. I've divided our research insights into two buckets, AVOD and SVOD. And while I know this may not quite cover everyone's apps out there, I hope there's some information that's useful for everyone. First of all, AVOD, or ad-supported video on demand. Starting from the left to the right here, customers who primarily watch AVOD content are starting to have higher Net Promoter Scores than SVOD customers. We hypothesize that this is potentially due to the value that free AVOD apps provide, opposed to increasingly expensive SVOD subscriptions. Another research observation has been that AVOD services are often visited for specific content associations. This means that unlike SVOD services, which are often driven by specific movie titles and TV shows, AVOD customers tend to search more by content category or genre to find your app. And third, our researchers have noted that customers do tend to have a lower perception of content quality in AVOD services. This means that users are less likely to visit those apps when they're unsure of what to watch or they're in a browsing state of mind. To account for these points, AVOD app developers can potentially leverage the user interface to make genre associations very clear and to assure users of the quality of the content. As for SVOD, or subscription video on demand, there are several insights from our research team as well. With regard to content versus app awareness, we found that engagement is often content-driven and not brand-driven. Browsing for SVOD apps by name is much less likely. Because of this, subscription rotation is continuing to trend upward as customers sign up for specific services due to specific titles that they want to watch. This implies that it may be more challenging to keep users satisfied over time with SVOD subscriptions. We've also found that it takes a trail of breadcrumbs, so to speak, for users to find your app. This means that they might be interested in a particular content title across multiple touch points like word of mouth, ads, and then finally a trailer. Entering the signup flow is the final step in their decision-making journey. And third, our research team has found that shared accounts continue to be popular for SVOD apps. App developers should consider groupthink, profiles, and the number of devices allowed. As Changshang stated earlier, simplicity means things should just work. However, this can be more challenging when multiple households share an account and expect your app to just work on multiple devices. Additionally, we recommend avoiding paywalls that prevent users from browsing content first. Browsing makes it easy for users to verify the availability of specific titles. This keeps users excited about the content first, so that the sign-up process is just a fulfillment of their objective. Also, during the sign-up flow, customers are scanning fine print and not reading it. Simple, direct comparisons with bulleted lists help clarify the value proposition without overwhelming users. This keeps the sign-up process simple and easy to complete. And third, fewer decisions at the point of sale. If a free trial is offered, consider keeping it top of mind for the user. Consolidate choices on a single screen and limit the marketing upsells during the free trial or sign-up process. The free trial experience should be crafted to excite users without overwhelming them. Entering a sign-up flow is really the culmination of many interactions. When they finally reach the sign-up point, customers just want to get through it quickly with clear, important information. Upsells throw them off and require more consideration. In context of delight, we try making the sign-up task quote unquote unexpectedly simple, as Changchang suggested. In summary, we attempt to design for both simplicity and delight as our brand pillars, which is reflected in our visual foundations and informed by user research. We hope that this presentation has offered some takeaways for your app development, and we look forward to any feedback or questions that you may have. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Jeff and Chanchan. That was a great session. So we are now going to get into our Q&A. We've got a lot of great questions. So excited to get to these. First up from Stanley, can you share insights on the design tools you're currently using in your workflow? Are there any particular tools or plugins you found especially valuable for Roku-specific design challenges?
Thank you for the question. Currently, our team is using Figma for easy collaboration, though historically the team has been using various tools, depending on the evolution of it. I'd say the gist of it is whatever tool gets the job done well for your team or for your specific case. And Jeff is more knowledgeable about all the helpful plugins of Figma. So I'll pass that to Jeff.
Yeah, thanks, Changchang. It's a great question. One thing I would add in addition to Figma is we occasionally try to run usability tests with users where we might create a prototype in Figma, and we found that there is a commercial USB receiver made by a company called Flirc, F-L-I-R-C, that can connect into the laptop and allow us to connect a Roku remote control to the Figma prototype, and then we can actually cast that prototype onto a TV. So by that way, we can simulate an actual remote control controlling a prototype. So maybe something to check out as well if you have time.
Awesome. Great answers. Okay, next question from Chris Dwyer Perkins. CDP asks, thoughts on exposing some of your design system values in the SDK for apps to consume and reflect as updated?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think this is something we are starting to look into, and I know we have some thematic values in XML that can be overridden, for example, or are visible. But in terms of a more formal structure, in terms of spacing, tokens, and so on, I think that's something we're looking into a little bit more, and perhaps also creating, say, a community Figma file for anyone interested from that perspective to offer those values through free Figma files as well.
Awesome. Okay. From CDP, another question. Thoughts on adding Unicode emoji support as this is becoming more common and familiar to users? Roku is currently the only platform used for streaming missing the support that I'm aware of. I can actually answer the emoji part actually with the Roku OS 12 we do have emoji support. There is either a font or the I will go back, Chris, I will get you the documentation on it, but we actually do have a way to actually do emojis. I'll let Jeff and Chan expand further on Unicode. Anything else they have in emojis though?
Yeah, so in our existing font files, Gotham and the new upcoming Roku UI font, I don't believe we will support emojis in those typefaces, so to speak. But it's a good question. It's something that if we can't find the immediate answer to elsewhere, then I can take that back to the team.
Yeah, I think just it was in one of the multi-text label. I think it's something I will get Chris, I'll get you the answer. It was something released about a couple of years ago. Okay. When it comes to navigation design for Roku apps, what approaches have yielded the best results in your experience? How do you handle the challenge of deep content hierarchies while keeping the interface intuitive for users with remote controls?
Yeah, so there's a few things I would say about this question. So first is we try to limit the number of menu items to about 5 to 8. I think that's a common rule of thumb in design, and it's not just specific to TV. So we try to limit the number of menu items within a navigation. And in terms of depth, we try to limit how deep the user has to traverse from, let's say, the top level menu to submenus and so on. So we normally try to limit it to about 2 hierarchies. And if that is still a lot of content, or you need to go even further, another pattern we're noticing quite commonly, and I'm sure a lot of people on this call may have seen this as well, but we're seeing sidebar navigations where the search icon or search function is placed on top of home. So as the user is using the remote control to D-pad left to the home menu item, they can just be one click away from search. So if search is something that your app can support, perhaps that's another way of allowing users to find content.
And I may add 3 adjectives to it. One is predictable, meaning the moment that the user press on D-pad up, down, left, right, it's pretty predictable that where the focus will go to. So no doubts about that. The second adjective will be reliable. For example, can you make sure, for example, the back button is always reliable for taking user to the previous steps? That makes sense. The last adjective that I'd like to mention is forgiving in the event that user accidentally trigger a navigation that's not desirable. Can the interaction be forgiving enough that it wouldn't take the user too long to recover the accidental mistake?
Awesome. Great stuff. Thanks, Chan. From Tran, regarding content grids, what design patterns have you found most effective for balancing visual appeal with usability? Are there any specific strategies you've implemented to improve content discovery within grid layouts?
Yeah, so in the native UI, we have experimented with most commonly content grids, or what you might see as row grids in the SDK, where we just have rows of tiles. And I think by default, the SDK wants to just show a uniform set of identically sized rows with the same aspect ratio. And without talking or divulging too much about what we do in terms of A/B experimentation, at Roku, we've been playing around with different aspect ratios, different tile sizes, and modulating those so that it's not just an endless sea of rows that all look the same. And we have found some impact to users depending on how we change aspect ratios. So for example, 16 by 9 tiles versus 2 by 3 tiles and different sizes of tiles in each row. We have seen some impact, sometimes positive and sometimes negative. So I think there is definitely an opportunity to balance visual appeal. Changchang, if you have thoughts on that, since you have more expertise on the visual side, but just in terms of aspect ratio and sizing, those are a couple of things that we've experimented with.
Yeah, I think Jeff answered it perfectly.
Okay.
All right. Moving on to the next question. Personalization. How are you tweaking the UI based on user behavior? Any libraries making this easier, or is it all custom code?
Yeah, I'm not an engineer, but I would lean towards saying it's generally algorithmic and done through custom code as opposed to libraries making that easier. So again, without talking too much about what Roku is doing in its features, there is some personalization based on what we think users might like to watch and how we present that UI to them through content grids that I just mentioned. But that tends to be, again, more algorithmic based, depending on the user's behavior.
Cool. Okay. Next question. Are there plans to support the GIF format?
Not at this time, to my knowledge. And again, this may be a bit of an engineering question as well. SVG support should be coming out soon for some platforms. And I'm hopeful that that will come through in the future. So if you are interested in that format instead, I believe that's something to look out for.
Okay. Onboarding flows. What's working for you? Any A/B test results that made you go, huh, didn't see that coming?
Yeah, it's a good question because I feel that onboarding is a bit of a flow that the user must get through when they're setting up a Roku device, and that might not be analogous to setting up an app, right? If they don't like an app or they don't like an app that I've designed, they could just abandon it. So I think it's not quite a perfect comparison, but some common practices that we see just through setup is to minimize the number of screens, to offer QR codes when possible, because we found that users normally have their smartphones with them and they're generally satisfied or preferring to use their phones to complete, password completions and so on, as opposed to on-screen keyboards. So yeah, those are a couple of things that I can think of. Changchang, I don't know if you've got
Yeah.
any thoughts on that.
Another thing or two I could add is that in terms of indicating the progress of it, while I was designing it, kind of compared between indicating the number of steps left versus the estimated amount of time left. So after some comparison or thoughts to it, we decided to go with the latter because at the core, it's more of how much time that it's going to take matters more to the users. For the absolute number of steps may scare them away. It's one additional insight to add. Another, if I may add, is for the instant sign up. In theoretically, users can activate as many free trials as they like. But data-wise, the return doesn't seem to be tasked as we thought it would be. So we ended up with kind of activate or start up to 4 free trials. Then that secretly changed users' mindset, in my opinion. It's kind of like so that they make their choices more carefully and eventually lead to a higher conversion rate.
Good. All right. We've got time for one last question. And so I'm going to go here to this one because this was actually, I saw this one on the YouTube channel and I want to give this one some opportunity for some shine. Any advice for supporting accessibility?
Yeah, so we try to support accessibility through screen reader, and we would encourage, screen reader to be functional in everyone's apps. Aside from the contrast ratios, which is more of a standard that I mentioned in the presentation, we also suggest or are looking into ways to limit animations and automatic video playback to avoid causing problems with people who might be motion sensitive, for example, creating settings to potentially prevent that from causing them to get surprised or visually upset by animation or video playing back automatically. In terms of further accessibility, I might want to know more. Feel free to reach out to Jonathan so I can try to understand many more details about accessibility in particular.
Yeah, David, go ahead and put your questions. If you have more detailed questions on accessibility, put those in the developer Slack, and I'll forward those to the UX team. Okay, so that will wrap up our session for the UX team. I'd like to thank Jeff and Chan so much for all their help and the great Q&A session. We're going to take a quick 4-minute break, and we're going to come back with our next session at 11:55.